That is exactly what happened in 1799, when the first platypus body arrived at the British Museum in London. Leading naturalists stared in disbelief, certain it was a clever fake, made from pieces of different animals. One respected anatomist even picked up a pair of scissors, trying to snip apart the seams he was sure held the absurd creature together. But there were no seams, no glue, no hidden stitches. This impossible animal was real, and it would go on to become the most puzzling enigma in the history of evolutionary science. Today, we are exploring the extraordinary true story of the platypus evolution's ultimate Frankenstein creature, a living mosaic that shatters every rule we thought we knew about mammals, reproduction, and adaptation to the wild. When European scientists first encountered the platypus, they had a strict set of rules for classifying animals. Mammals gave birth to live young, had hair or fur, and nursed their babies with milk from nipples. Birds laid eggs, had hard beaks and feathers. Reptiles had scales, laid eggs, and often carried venom. The platypus did not fit any of these boxes. It had thick, waterproof fur that kept it warm in cold Australian streams, more hairs per square centimeter than a polar bear. It had a broad, flat tail, just like a beaver, used for steering through water and storing fat for long periods of fasting. It had webbed front feet that propelled it smoothly through rivers, and the webbing would fold back when it walked on land, letting it use sharp claws to dig deep burrows into riverbanks. Most confusing of all was its bill, soft, flexible, and covered in thousands of tiny sensory receptors, nothing like the hard, bony beak of any duck. For decades, researchers could not agree if it was a mammal, a bird, a reptile, or some entirely new form of life no one had ever imagined. The chaos only deepened when scientists tried to figure out how the platypus reproduced. For nearly 100 years, a fierce debate raged across Europe's greatest scientific institutions. Some experts insisted it laid eggs, like a bird or a lizard. Others swore it must give birth to live babies, like all other known mammals. The greatest anatomist of the 19th century, Richard Owen, refused to believe the platypus laid eggs, even as evidence started to pile up. Meanwhile, other scientists argued that if it laid eggs, it could not possibly make milk to feed its young. This argument went on for generations, with no clear answers, because no one had ever seen a platypus nest or watched its babies hatch. It was not until 1884 that a British zoologist named William Caldwell traveled to Australia, sent local Aboriginal guides to find platypus burrows, and finally confirmed the truth: the platypus lays eggs. It is one of only 5 mammals on Earth that does this, part of a tiny ancient group called monotremes. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community, forcing biologists to completely rewrite their textbooks and rethink the entire story of mammalian evolution. Even after solving the egg-laying mystery, the platypus kept dropping more surprises. Unlike other mammals, it does not have nipples to feed its young. Instead, female platypuses seep milk out through tiny pores in their skin, forming small droplets on their fur. The tiny, blind, hairless hatchlings lap up the milk until they are old enough to leave the burrow and hunt on their own. This strange method of nursing is a link between reptilian ancestors and modern mammals, a living snapshot of how milk production first evolved millions of years ago. To make this creature even more unusual, adult platypuses have no teeth. Instead, they have hard, flattened pads in their mouths that grind up worms, freshwater shrimp, insect larvae, and other small prey. They can eat nearly their entire body weight in food every single night to fuel their active, semi-aquatic lifestyle. They hunt almost entirely underwater, closing their eyes, ears, and nostrils the second they dive below the surface. Most of us would be completely blind in that situation, but the platypus has a superpower. No other mammal can match electroreception. That soft, duck-like bill is not just a funny-looking feature, it is a highly advanced sensory machine. Covered in thousands of microscopic electroreceptors, the bill can detect the tiny electric fields produced by the muscle contractions of small aquatic animals. As the platypus sweeps its bill back and forth across the muddy river bottom, it can see exactly where its prey is hiding, even in complete darkness or murky water. This ability is usually found in sharks and rays, making the platypus one of the only mammals on the planet to hunt using electricity. Every time a crayfish twitches or a worm moves, the platypus picks up the signal and strikes with perfect accuracy. This incredible adaptation lets it thrive in the quiet streams and rivers of eastern Australia and Tasmania, its only native home on Earth. For millions of years, this electrosensory system has made it a master of its freshwater habitat, a predator that needs no sight or sound to succeed. If egg-laying, milk-seeping skin, and electric hunting were not strange enough, the platypus has one more trick that left scientists stunned. Venom. Male platypuses have a sharp, hollow spur on each of their hind ankles, connected to a venom gland in their thigh. During the breeding season, males use these spurs to fight one another for access to females, stabbing their rivals to establish dominance. The venom is not usually deadly to humans, but it causes excruciating, long-lasting pain that ordinary painkillers can barely touch. What makes this venom so fascinating to researchers is that it shares proteins with snake venom, spider venom, and even some insect toxins. Venom is extremely rare in mammals, and finding it on an egg-laying electric sensing creature made the platypus even more of a biological puzzle. This spur and its venom are another ancient trait left over from the platypus's prehistoric ancestors and preserved through millions of years of evolution. To understand why the platypus is such a bizarre mix of parts, we have to go back hundreds of millions of years. The platypus belongs to the monotremes, a group that split off from all other mammals roughly 166 million years ago during the age of dinosaurs. While other mammals evolved into marsupials and placental mammals like humans, dogs, and whales, monotremes stayed on their own unique path. Australia's long isolation from the rest of the world let the platypus survive and evolve without competition from newer, more advanced mammals. Fossil evidence shows that ancient platypuses lived alongside dinosaurs and survived the massive extinction event that wiped out 75% of all species on Earth. The oldest platypus fossils date back more than 120 million years, meaning this strange little creature has barely changed its body plan since the time of T. Rex. It is a living fossil, a window into the distant past of all mammals. Modern genetics has finally helped solve some of the platypus' deepest mysteries. In 2021, scientists published a complete platypus genome, revealing that its DNA carries bits of bird, reptile, and mammal genes all mixed together. It has 10 sex chromosomes, 5X and 5Y, while nearly all other mammals have just 2. This genetic mishmash explains why it has such a wild mix of traits: genes for laying eggs, like a reptile, genes for making milk, like a mammal, and genes for electroreception, rarely seen in any fur-bearing animal. For years, scientists called the platypus a primitive mammal, but today, we know it is not primitive at all. It is specialized. Every weird, mismatched feature is perfectly adapted to its life in Australia's freshwater ecosystems. The bill, the venom, the electric sense, the eggs, the milk, all of it works together to make the platypus one of the most successful and resilient creatures on the continent. For more than 2 centuries, the platypus has humbled scientists and challenged our need to put nature into neat categories. We want animals to be either mammal, bird, or reptile. We want evolution to follow a straight, clean line. But the platypus shows us that nature does not care about our rules or our labels. It is messy, creative, and full of wonderful surprises. This small, unassuming creature has forced us to rethink how mammals evolved, how reproduction develops, and how animals can adapt to extreme environments in ways we never thought possible. It is a cultural icon of Australia, a beloved symbol of the country's unique wildlife, and a reminder that the most amazing stories on our planet are the ones written by wild, unplanned nature. As human activity threatens rivers and habitats across eastern Australia, the platypus faces new challenges in the modern world. Conservationists are working hard to protect these extraordinary animals so future generations can keep marveling at evolution's most baffling and beautiful creation. Every time we study the platypus, we learn something new about life on Earth, about our own evolutionary history, and about the endless possibilities of nature. It is not a broken mistake or a random mishmash. It is a masterpiece of evolution, a living testament to the power of adaptation and survival. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel